Wait, stop. You are stealing our stuff. But you see, that's where we lost the opportunity. Because the tech companies, when they looked at that, they saw innovation, they saw opportunities. And they came through and they took over the industry. Because that's when the Apple had later came up with the iTunes, and suddenly it was like, as a music industry now, we can only produce, but we have to have technology companies actually selling the stuff for us. So we're no longer really in control of the industry. But now we are getting into the era of more tech advances into the artificial intelligence space as well. And the question becomes, as a music industry, are we still going to stay back? Or are we going to use this as an opportunity to actually come in and start trying to make a difference, try to grasp at least a little bit of the pie back to ourselves? Especially also as if you have independent artists in here, as an independent artist, what is it that you can use, what is it that you can do to actually make the most of this opportunity? But going back to the slide, we move from the MP3 player, now we are in the era of smartphones. And smartphones, they're really driven by apps. And apps is what we're really going to concentrate a lot about today, because there's almost an app to do everything, and new apps are coming over and over and over and over again, I just added this extra slide last night. It's just out of interest, because when I do a lot of reading around these things as well, and when I just saw it, I was like, oh wow, that's very interesting, because they say today the Sony Walkman is turning 40 years, like the first, like it was released about 40 years ago on this specific day. And then there was this other factor that was just saying, hey, you know what? The cassette tape was released in 1963, so it's like it's already over 50 years now. But yeah, this was just out of interest. I just saw it last night, I just added it. So, what is artificial intelligence? So, this talk is really targeted at those in the music industry. So I try to not to go too tech into it, but try to make it, so that everybody can relate. If I took you to an indie artist, they must be able to relate, and so forth. So knowing that artists are creatives, those in the music industry are creative, you are imagination, you can imagine stuff and everything. I'm going to present it in an imaginative way. So I'm going to say, imagine you are working for a company. It's about 5 o'clock, it's time to knock off, and when you're just trying to stand up, when you leaving your desk, you remember it's a Friday, you were actually supposed to buy 2 tickets for you and your spouse, for you and your girlfriend, but you forgot to do that. And the other party is not going to be happy at all. Now there's a digital assistant called Alexa. It's from Amazon. You can easily go to Alexa and say, Alexa, can you please buy me 2 tickets for tonight to go and watch The Lion King? And Alexa will just say, oh sure, you know what? Let me book them for you. Alexa books the tickets for you and gives you back a response and say, your tickets are booked. Now, up to that far, it's just easy, because it's like, yeah, I just gave you one instruction, you came back. But Alexa comes back and say, hey, I see this show is happening in the evening. Do you want to have supper as well? I can book you a restaurant. And you say, yes, please book me a restaurant. And Alexa looks and say, from your previous history, I see you've always enjoyed pizza. There are these 5 pizza places around the theater. Do you want me to book you for you there? He said, yes. Alexa reserves the restaurant for the 2 of you, and now you have a restaurant reserved. When you're picking up your bag, Alexa say, how are you going to get there? Do you want me to call you an Uber? And you say, yes. And Alexa calls you an Uber for you, and when you get downstairs, indeed, there's an Uber waiting for you. You step into the Uber, the evening has been saved. Now, this may sound like science fiction, but this is something that was tested by Amazon not a long time ago, and it worked perfectly. So that's when we're getting into the space of artificial intelligence. We're saying we want to get machines to be doing things or thinking things that, almost like human beings will do. And what they're actually doing with Alexa now, they're getting to a step where they're working on a smarter Alexa, whereby if you are in your house, you forgot to switch off the lights, and you forgot to lock the door, and you're going into bed, they actually say Alexa is able to tell you, hey, you didn't lock the front door, you didn't lock the gate, do you want me to lock it for you? And you can immediately say, yes, lock it, and they can lock it. Now, in my imagination, as I kept thinking further, I realized, hey, you know what? We have come so far with image recognition software as well. So what is most likely to happen is that in future, we will have cameras in your house. So when you walk into your house, the camera will actually be able to recognize your face to say, okay, this is Segodi coming in. But I do believe that we're going to be able to get to the point where we can actually teach it on how to recognize your facial expression. You know, like when you meet somebody and you look at them and say, you don't look okay, what's wrong? They haven't said anything, but just by you looking at them, you can tell something seems to be wrong. But I do believe that with our facial recognition software, we're going to be able to get to that fact. To say the camera will be able to evaluate and see you and say, hey, you know what? You don't look okay. But what is the application in music? It can be set up to say, if somebody walks in and his face is like this, play him these inspirational songs to inspire him because he doesn't look okay. If somebody has just won a tender today and he comes in, he's excited, and the camera picks up, oh, this man really looks excited today, it should be able to play him a catchy dance song, and he can actually be able to dance along. But as the musicians, as those in the music industry, it's going to mean that we need to produce our music in such a way that we take it in such a way that these softwares are going to be able to pick up to say, okay, this kind of song is falling into this category, so that it can be able to play for the relevant people at the relevant time. So as you can see, this really answered our second question to say, does it play a role in our daily lives? Artificial intelligence, it definitely does. Right? But let's go to talk in the music industry to say, what is it that we're going to be using it for? Now there's multiple apps that are coming up. And these are the apps that we're really going to look at today to check. Maybe some of them you might know, some of them you might not know, but I'm going to take you through all of them to see, say, this one can do this one can do that. I've broken them up into just different segments. We're going to look at marketing apps because music, when you produce the music, you need to market it. They, like millions and millions of songs are being released into the ecosystem, into the digital space every year. But how do I stand out? I need to be able to market my music. So we're going to look at marketing apps. We're going to look at music creation apps because the creation of music now has just become very technical, and our artificial intelligence apps, they're actually helping us to do a lot of things that in the past you would have needed a full man to come and do it, but now you're finding that you're coming across an app that can actually do a whole lot of things. And we're going to look at a few apps to check what is it that they do, etc. Then we have audio recording, audio recognition apps. We're going to look at which apps are there and what is it that they do, what is running behind them, and how can they help us. Then we're going to look at artificial intelligence in live music space to say what's the impact that it's going to have, the concert experience. Can we have a robotic band, for an example? What can be the application of virtual reality and augmented reality in the live music space? But let's first start with the marketing. Marketing is very important because now that we're dealing with data in this digital space, we need to make sure that we own that. And I always give an example to people to say, a long time ago, when I first started, playing a role in the music industry, we started building on the online space. We were building around an app called MySpace. We invested so much to get people to join our platform, our channel, to support us. But then one day, it just became quiet. Everybody disappeared. Where did everybody go? Apparently, there's a new app called Facebook, and everybody's just gathering there. And now we have to start over again because we did not own that data. We don't know how to get hold of those people. So what it tells us is that people are actually just following trends. Today it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's everything. Tomorrow it might be something else. So if you've only been building just the relationship is just between you and them, following through the Facebook, through the Instagram, that data is owned by Instagram, by Facebook, and so forth. But if tomorrow everything changes, or if tomorrow they change the rules, you will not be able to reach those people. So what is being said is that always try to make sure that as much as you're building on that platform, but you have a direct contact relationship. People can do, you can gather their email addresses, you can do a whole lot of other things. But the one that, it's becoming very popular, especially in the artificial intelligence space, it's the one for instant messaging, because most of the young people that are actually coming through, who are now supporting the music, they like, what will I say? They, depending on, instant, they want their messages instantly. Like, it's not like when you talk email, they might be thinking, more work, etc. But when they're always just exchanging messages, push notifications, and all those things. So there's this app that it's called POP. I've also just included the link there. This app, what it does is that it enables you to actually have a direct relationship. So you invite people to actually become connected to you through instant messaging, which means when you have a message that you want to send out, you're releasing a new song, you want to do anything you want to do, you're able to push out this message to all these people. But at the same time, this data that is going to be sitting behind it, it tells you what these people that are supporting you, what is it that they like, what is it that they don't like, what is it that they prefer about your music, what is it that they don't prefer. Because that becomes very important for your marketing, for when you're even releasing your next release. You know what? From all these people that I'm connected with, they only liked this 9 tracks. This 10th one, they didn't like it. So I need to really be concentrating on following this style. But to be able to get all that information, to know all that, the engine behind this app is the one that's actually feeding you with all that information. And that's one of the applications of artificial intelligence, to say, how does this app is able to, to know the behavior of the people that are supporting you, the things that they like, all that thing. And it's built up into this app. And as an end user, you're actually able to just go and be able to apply it for your music. Then, I think the bigger one is all about, the music creation, because most of the people that we sit here, you also creating music, and you're depending on, and you're probably working with other people to try to create your music. But now we're having these apps that are coming up. That the first two, they help you to compose music. There's an app called Empa. There's an app called Juknek. All right. With Empa, what happens is that you capture the mood of the music, you capture the length of the track, you capture the duration, you just give it, a whole lot of parameters. You can tell it, I want it to be a romantic song, this and this and this and this. What this app is going to do is that it's going to compose and generate a song, such a song for you. I think maybe 80% of the work will be done. All you need to do now, you can now take that song and then just bring in your creative elements and make it a computer song. In actual fact, there's an artist, her name is Taryn Southern. She was actually presenting at a conference called South by South in the US, where they were interviewing her, because she has just created an 8-track album where all the compositions in there, she just used an app. She said, I don't know how to play any instrument. I did not bring any band player or anything. All I did, I used this app. I told it the kind of songs that I wanted to do, and it brought out the music. And she has a full album. Now, that's going to have a very big impact on the music industry, because people who are composing music, people who are playing all the various instruments, they will be impacted, because now all of a sudden, I'm able to use an app to do all this kind of things. And then we have another app. It's called Melodrive. Melodrive, it's another app. It produces music, but it's mainly for gaming. Now, currently, what happens is that for games, you could create a track, and then the gaming company will come and license it from you, and then they'll put it behind the game. Simple. But with this app, what basically happens is that it can create music at real time. So it means when the app, when somebody is busy playing the game, it's looking at the visuals that are on the screen, what is happening on the screen, and it composes the music and attach it already to the game. So that now just becomes a game changer, because now it means now everything now is becoming dynamic. So yeah, those are really the changes that are really coming up. And then we have what you call the Amateurs Code. This app, it really just enhances songwriting. It helps with songwriting. So you no longer get stuck. Their tagline, let me just check their tagline. Their pitch, they say, get unstuck with your songwriting with the power of AI and say goodbye to writer's block for good. So it means, while it would have taken a longer time, to write songs, or even if I don't know how to write a song, I'm now able to use this app to actually be able to write music, because you're still going to do the same thing. You're going to tell it the type of song that you want, you're telling it, the duration, the mood and everything, and it will come up with lyrics for you for that. So that's another application that, we need to really be watching out for. Then we have one that's called Rotor. Now, because we're having a lot of our music is on the digital space, we're relying on applications like YouTube to actually be able to, because most people are really following the visuals. But now it's becoming difficult to always produce a music video for every song. It's very costly, and you need to produce them rapidly, because unlike in the era when you were producing a video for a TV, now you're producing for YouTube, and more and more videos have been loaded every day. Now this app, it creates visual to accompany track. So you give it a track, you can tell it what is the track about, you can give it some of the lyrics, etc. It checks the tempo, it checks everything else, and then it creates visuals. It will keep on giving you options. You can keep on going in and check until you find in the combinations of options that you want, and then boom, now you have your own music video that you can actually upload on YouTube. You can even use it to do your lyric videos. You can use it to do anything, but anything that has got to do with giving you visuals for your track, you're able to use it to do that. Then we have got these two apps here. The one is LandArt, the one is Cloudbounce. Both of them, you know how when you finish doing your music, you need to actually be able to take it in for mastering. And sometimes, the mastering engineer will be taking a lot of time to actually get your tracks mastered. So what these apps they do is that for the mastering part, because it's just the balancing of levels and etc., the app is actually, if you put in the track in there, and then it's able to master it for you and give you a copy. Chances are that yes, you might need a little bit, 90% of the work might be done. You might need to take it to a mastering engineer for the last bit of the creativity, just to make sure that the work is still coming out fine. But most of the work would have been done, which means if an engineer now was investing 8 hours in doing your track, now they only need to invest maybe 1 hour or whatever. But then it means it's lesser payment to them. You're saving money as well, but then there's an impact in the industry. And those are some of the things that we need to know, because all these impacts are coming through. I've just included a list of many other apps there from various companies, but what I like the most is that in terms of those companies that they're showing there is also Sony that is listed in that, because all these other companies that they are technology companies, like I said, but at least Sony has got, there's a Sony music division, which means at least we're getting into that space, and we will get something. Next one, it's about the audio recognition apps. So the audio recognition. So basically, what basically just happens is that we would look at a song. They would look at a song, and then they'll pick up, a small portion around it. That they can create what we can really just look at it as maybe a fingerprint of the song, so that the apps will now come to be able to recognize the songs based on that fingerprint that has been generated. So, these fingerprints, they can be stored into a database so that the next time the app is hearing this track, it's actually able to differentiate it. Because we need a whole lot of that in the music industry. Because there are with so many music coming out, we need to be able to track it. And but then companies so that bit has, Shazam has been around since 1999, so that has been happening a lot. But the new applications that are coming in for that technology, we have a company for an app called WOM. What now WOM does is that I actually have a colleague of mine, or I call him my mentor. He was making a presentation and he said to us, you know what? Artist, here is your tagline. You must know that whenever you get played, you must get paid. So every time your track gets played, you need to get paid. But the tracking of where our music is getting played so that we can have the money coming through has been a very, very big challenge. So, but then apps like WOM, they actually come in and say, you know what? We can actually track, monitor even up to 25. I think at the last, there was a figure that they were able to monitor 25,000 radio stations across the globe, which means if your track is played anywhere in the world, if you subscribe to them, they'll be able to come back and tell you, your music was played 10 times in China, it was played 15 times in Canada, and you will have all that information so that the collection agencies collecting royalties, they can be able to collect, to make those collections for you. But this company went a little bit further. They said, okay, now we have got all this information. We know where your music was played. We know which radio station. We know which DJ played your song. And we know the kind of song that you have. Which means we are able to pinpoint and tell you, in Canada, we have got these 2 radio stations that specialize a lot in playing rock music, as an example. Now, we all know about, trying to plug in your music to radio stations. You probably need, to have a plug-in specialist or somebody who works in that industry to go and pitch your music to various radio stations. Most of the time, they're just going to try to pitch across everybody because they don't know who to pitch it to, and then they charge you for it, etc. But with this app, what they are now able to do, they're able to say, hey, here are the list of radio stations from across the globe that we know can actually welcome this type of music that you play. Because from their engine in the back, they are able to tell all that information. So all of a sudden, as an artist, I'm able to be sitting in the comfort of my own home, and I can just request a report from WOM, and WOM will give me a report of maybe 100 radio stations and which programs my music will fit into. And all of a sudden, I can directly get hold of those radio stations and try to pitch my music there. And I don't even need to go and have somebody as a plugin in between, because I can do the plugin myself, because technology is helping me to do that. Then we have another app that's called DJ Monitor. A lot of music gets played in clubs, and we don't know if my song has been played in the club. I'm not sure, because there's no, really tracking. But now these guys with this app, they actually do the tracking for us. They can come, they will install some devices within the various clubs, but every time music is being played in there, their app can recognize using the fingerprint, and they can tell, all right, you know what? This song belongs to artist ABC, and they record that information, they make it available to the artist. All of a sudden, now every artist can actually be able to know when their song has been played, and they are able to track and be paid for it. The same applies to another app that's called Dubset. Dubset, it also identifies songs, but it's been done for mixes, because there are so many mixes that gets done, unofficial mixes, they get done, they get uploaded online, and they probably get attached onto YouTube, but we're not really able to track to know, oh, okay, where have my song been put in a mix, because sometimes it's very hard. Sometimes they change a bit of the tempo, they change this, etc. But this app is actually able to track it to that level, that as long as your song has become part of a mix, they're able to actually track it and pick it up for you, and then they can be able to let you know. And the application around this, it also goes to, I mean, your other companies like your Facebook and your YouTube. You know how you would upload a track on Facebook, or you're doing something, there was music playing in the background, and Facebook will tell you, hey, this song belongs to somebody else. It's really just applying the technology behind it to say, they're checking the fingerprints and they're able to tell this song belongs to so and so, so you need rights for it, etc. So yeah, those really are the various applications that we have in terms of audio recognition. Then we have the next set. It's when now we come into live music, because that's another element of the music industry. The question becomes, what impact is technology going to have on live music? Can we perhaps be able to enhance the experience? How currently it's not very easy to actually know about live shows, because either I have to be going out and checking listings or doing everything else. But there are various apps that now they will know, okay, Segodi likes this kind of music, and they'll be able to push out notifications to me as soon as there are concerts that are listed under that music genre. They can push them to me, and I can even go to an extent of once they push to me and they tell me, Segodi, there's a concert at FNB Stadium on the 10th. These are the artists. Do you want to book tickets? And I can immediately just push back a yes, and they'll be able to reserve the tickets for me because I've already entered my payment details when I first signed up on the app, etc. And there's a whole lot of other advances that they're doing, like, you find yourself at the event and you want to go to, they're giving you a 30 minutes break, in between, and you want to go to the bathroom and you want to go and buy food, but when you go out, the lines are just crazy. But what these guys are saying is that, hey, you know what? What they are now able to do is that there are situations where once you've loaded their app on your phone, if you are at the venue, they can actually be able to, you can order your meal or your drink just via the app before leaving your seat. Such that by the time you actually, as soon as it's ready, you'll get a message. When you get there, you're just picking it up and you're going, which means you don't even need to stand in the queue. And they're able to also monitor the bathroom lines. They're able to do quite a lot of things, around it. And then there's the question of saying, can we have robots actually playing at our live concerts? Is that even possible? When I was in South by South earlier this year, South by South is another conference that happens in the US. I found some guys that were demoing this. I think they were guys from Japan. So I just took this small video with my phone because I thought it was good. And this is what they were doing. Now, you can already tell that people are already investing time and effort in trying to come up with, possibilities around these things. This might be at a very, very, very early stage, infancy stage, but these things happen rapidly. They happen very quick. So I won't be surprised if next year you find out, okay, now they actually have a full set where there's a robot playing drums, the other way playing bass, and playing all these other things. These are the changes that are coming through. As to how they're going to impact our live music, that's something that we'll see in the future. But it's happening, it's coming. But the other aspect about live music becomes around virtual reality and augmented reality, because with with virtual reality, what now is happening is that, I mean, I can be sitting, some people don't want to go to live shows, but they still want to experience the live shows, you know? So companies are already now making available the full concert. Of course, they've been, you know, screening them on TV for you guys, for us, but that's 2D. But now with the virtual reality, you actually you feel as if you're really at the concert and in a live. And in actual fact, because they will be using 360 cameras, you are able to actually, you know, get a fuller view, probably even a better view than some of the people that are at the event. Of course, it will be minus the inconveniences, those inconveniences of standing in queues for the bathroom, trying to drive in to get a parking space, and just the list is just endless. And most people just want to stay home, but they want to enjoy that. So this is really going to impact our industry again. And the question becomes, are we ready for it? Have we prepared enough for it? And then there's the question of augmented reality, where it's like, I'm going to show you a video now, where it's a combination, and they launched a virtual pop group. So it means this group is not made up of people, but like it's just virtual. I don't even know how to explain it. But then they had a performance where they packed them up with, you know, actual real people, and this is how it went. This was the question is that when you're looking at this, are you able to tell to differentiate which one is a real human being and which one is a virtual, non-existing, you know? Now, application like this essentially means for future live events, if I want to have 50 people on stage for my performance, I want to create an environment of about 50 people or something. I can actually have 5 people on stage and have other 45 just being virtual, you know. But from a person sitting from far, they may not even realize until I start making some of them to disappear. As you'll see at the end of this video. So it's getting very interesting, guys. I'm really excited about this. I don't know if you guys are excited as I am, but I'm really excited about the opportunities that are happening in the music industry. Just going to touch quickly, because the time is going very quickly. I'm just going to touch quickly, other uses, things around record labels and the royalty funds, because all these apps, they also now enabling, record companies to actually be able to check when they're making their releases, to check, okay, where are our fans for this kind of music coming from? Because then the production around that kind of music, they can actually be able to channel it, to say, okay, for this type of music, we actually should pitch it for audiences in China, because that's where it's big. For this one, we're looking at that market. For that one, we're looking at that market, And the same applies to streaming services companies, because they're able to analyze the streaming methods that, the streaming trends that are coming through, to say, okay, this is the areas where we are big in, this is the areas where we're struggling in. Then they know where to focus their energy to actually bring in improvements. But one of the most interesting ones is there's an app called My Part app, which helps with the A&R process. Because what they say now is that with so many songs being produced, companies are being swamped with lots of demos that are coming through, demo songs, and it's easier even now. You don't even need to make a demo tape, you just need to send a song through. But they're saying it's so difficult. If I've got thousands sitting on my desk, it's difficult to get through them. But now these guys, they've come with an app called My Part. So what this app does is that it has already, obviously the engine behind it, it knows, the kind of music that are most likely to be successful in whatever area for this specific company. So all the submissions that they get, they push it into this app. And the app analyzes which ones are most likely to succeed and does a short list. Which means the A&R person from those 1,000, 2,000 submissions is or probably just left with about 20 of them. And it is those 20 that then they just need to go through and make their final selections, final decision. So, so that's another change that we're looking at. And there's another, I just want to look at the example here as well. There's another one from Warner Music Group. They purchased a company called Soda Tone. Now, what this company does is that they've produced an app. This app, it focuses on trying to go and check artists. So it goes to check all the streaming that has been happening. And then from those streaming trends, it's able to figure out artists that are most likely to succeed for touring, etc. So it helps the company to actually identify promising and sign artists. So that, now it becomes this, oh, okay, this one is most likely to succeed because their streaming trends is like this, and this, all the various factors. And that app is just able to do that for them. Apple as well has acquired, and there's another company called Asai, which specializes in A&R boosting music analytics. So there's an algorithm that is actually running behind it to be able to start. Like when you're playing your music, let's say you're playing a track. What this app is actually able to do, it checks what you are doing at that time that you're playing the app, right? You're playing the song. So if you are maybe busy jogging, it's actually able to modify the tempo of that track for you to make it, because it can tell, okay, this one is running, so I'm going to up the tempo. If you're sitting and relaxing, it's able to adjust it for you, like in whatever setup or situation that you're in. And yeah, those are really exciting things that are happening. I did say there was one question that I was going to raise. It's something about the copyright. Now, some of you might be aware of, there was an interesting copyright case around, there's a gentleman called David Slater. It was in the US. What this guy has done was that he had set up a series of cameras in a certain like wildlife space. There were monkeys that were around that place. So he had set up a certain set of cameras, and when the monkeys were playing around those cameras and with some of the gadgets, they ended up taking just quite a whole lot of selfies. And all of a sudden he had this library of selfies, etc. And he was publishing them on his site. And then there was another online website that actually got hold of those pictures and they published them as well. And he came out and said, no, hang on, you can't publish those are my pictures, you need permission from me. They are my copyright. And that company said, no, you did not take these pictures. If there's anybody who should claim the copyright, is the apes that are in these pictures, because you. The case went to court, and in court, they actually did say to him, no, you don't have the copyright of this, so you can't really stop these guys from sharing them on their space as well. And then what then further went, then there was another organization. Then he produced a book, I think where he had included some of the pictures and selling it and so forth. Then there was another organization that came up and said, hang on, you should not even be producing that book because you don't have copyright for those pictures. So they took him to court, and they were trying to say to the court, the court must actually allocate the copyright to the monkey, to the apes, and so that he would be able to be stopped from publishing or commercializing the pictures. But the court came out and said, no, copyright can only be allocated to human beings. So if a ape is a non-human being, it will not get the copyright, which means these pictures largely now they will just becoming part of a public domain. Now the question that we're asking ourselves now in the music industry is to say, if now all these machines and all this are actually able to produce the music and I don't even need to do anything, can in the end, can I